The irony was that other people were scared of him. One look at his shaved head, tattoos, nose piercing and black boots, and pedestrians crossed the road. Especially this late at night, especially in a city like Prague, where ghosts from a darker time lurked in the shadows. He threw a quick glance over his shoulder and pulled his dark green bomber jacket tightly around him. The temperatures had plummeted overnight, taking everyone by surprise. The jacket wasn't enough to keep out the bitter cold, but he figured that if he kept up a brisk pace, he'd be all right. He didn't want to be the first one to turn up at one of the meetings in a warmer coat, seeing as how he was still trying to blend in even after all these months. It might not seem that way to outsiders, but the clothing was as strictly regulated as any uniform. If you broke ranks, people would spot it immediately. The problem he had encountered from day one was that so many of the group had grown up together. They'd drunk their first bottles of Plzeňský Razdon together, gone to their first heavy metal concert together, even beaten up their first victim together, usually a beggar or immigrant begging for change near one of the big hotels. And so, when he'd first turned up 8 months earlier, they looked at him as though he came from a different planet, even though he dressed like them, listened to the same music, and spouted the same bile about foreigners desecrating the purity of the white race. He was just starting to make progress. The last thing he wanted to do was ruin all his hard work by wearing a warm coat. He spotted the distinctive shape of St. Vitus Cathedral looming in the darkness ahead and took a sharp right turn into a steep cobbled alleyway that would take him down to the Vltava River. He could hear the distant strains of an orchestra rehearsing and allowed himself a brief moment of respite from the unsmiling facade he'd had to maintain for so long. Dvorak, he thought to himself, recognizing the string movement. New World Symphony. It was a welcome change from metal. He hummed along, looking forward to the day when his bosses at Interpol told him that he had done his job, collected enough incriminating evidence against the group, and could finally return to his normal life. The truth was that the excitement and adrenaline of those early days undercover had faded, leaving him with a constant sense of anxiety that gnawed at his insides and woke him up at 3 a.m. to pace the creaking wooden floorboards of his cramped attic apartment. He was done, burned out, ready to go home.